Welcome to the Monthly Market Report. My name is Mac Rogers. I'm a real estate broker here in the San Francisco Bay Area. In this video, I'm going to walk through the latest information in the residential housing market across the country. Every month, I do this monthly market report to give you the insights and the information you need to be able to decipher or make sense of the information or the news that you hear and read to be able to make informed decisions and based on facts and not on hype. Let's start with this. This is the showing time graphic here. This is going all the way back to January. I've used showing time as a leading indicator in real estate of what is happening relative to activity. If you look at this going all the way back to January, you see the dip down during the lockdown of the pandemic and then coming back up, cramming a bunch of business into the first part of this year, seeing a lot of action, and now we're starting to level off. If you remember, as I've used this showing time graphic, I've said, well, we're ahead of where we were this time last year, and you see this yellow line here. We're slightly below where we were this time last year, September being the most recent data that we have. Now, why is this important? Well, because a lot of people are wondering, is the market starting to slow down? Is the market leveling off? When you look at this, yes, you can say, okay, yeah, that is happening relative to 2020. Now, as I always say, perspective is everything. I always want to bring you perspective and take a look at the showing time data going all the way back to 2017. And what do you see there? 2017, 2018, 2019, probably the most normal markets we can look at. The pandemic in 2020, certainly not a normal market. And we've kind of come off where we were at this time last year, but well ahead of where we were the years coming into 2020. Again, why is this important? Because yeah, we're starting to see the market level off a little bit there, but well ahead of where we were coming into the pandemic. It's important because, maybe you think, gosh, things are slowing down. Maybe you think that, and you've talked to people around you about what's happening out there in the real estate market. I want to give you a perspective from Bill McBride from Calculated Risk blog. He says this: sales non-seasonally adjusted in September were 548,000. That was 2.7% below sales in September of 2020, which was 563,000. But excluding last September, which was obviously distorted by the delayed selling season, sales non-seasonally adjusted were the strongest since 2005. I always say on the monthly market report that headlines do more to terrify than to clarify. And that's what's going on. The clickbait that's out there that oftentimes about the real estate market misleads people. Maybe the information is factual, but it's got a clickbait type of a headline that people don't read the article and they make an assumption off of what they saw and then maybe don't continue with their plans to buy or sell real estate, and they've been misinformed. I want to give you a couple of articles that are out there right now. This one, foreclosures are shooting up. This is a repeat of the early 2000s housing crisis. These are the headlines that I think we can expect to see more of. I talked about this. Foreclosure starts are being up 49% last month according to Adam data. Factually correct, but nowhere near where we were in 2019, the more normal market. We should expect foreclosures to be up as the moratorium have been lifted. Expect to see for the second month in a row, foreclosures are up in the third month in a row. But again, nowhere near the volume of what we saw pre-pandemic. Certainly, as we go into next year, there will be those that are affected by the pandemic, and the moratorium being lifted. But this sort of headline, this clickbait headline, it even comes from Realtor.com of all places. When consumers like you see headlines like this, you get scared, you get concerned, and you don't move forward. Here's another one. CNBC came out with this and said, mortgage originations will drop 33% in 2022 as interest rates rise according to the industry report. What they don't do is they take the time to read into the article. If you go into the article, what they actually say is that refinance originations will drop 62% in 2020 to 860 billion in 2022. And that makes sense. In a rising interest rate environment, we'll see less refinances. However, they go on to say mortgage originations for the purpose of buying a home are forecasted to rise 9% to a record 1.73 trillion next year. So the headline doesn't really do anything to inform the buyer or even lead you down the right path. You have to go into the article to begin to do that. And over, I see and meet people reading these headlines and thinking, I don't know if now is a good time to buy. I don't know if now is a good time to move forward with my real estate plans. And they don't do it, and they are basing their decisions on clickbait headline. I want to bring another report in there that I think really emphasizes this point. This is the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment. Do you think it's a good time to buy a home? Well, if you look back at 2020, you know, Feb of 2020, 70% of people saying yes. I think it's a good time to buy a home. You move forward to September of 2020, a little bit less at 65%. In September of 2021, about 1 out of 3 people think it's a good time to buy a home. Most likely, one of those reasons, people have been misinformed about what's happening in the real estate business or in the real estate market. No doubt, there's buyers out there that are frustrated right now. There are buyers who are looking at prices going, it's getting a little bit too hot. But if you follow the monthly market report, you're going to see that we're going to see more appreciation, but not at levels that we've seen going into next year. And that is what you should be looking at. I think the biggest question that people are asking today is what's ahead for the 2022 housing market forecast. I'm going to bring you today the data, the expert quotes, the insights on what's really happening in the market, because there's a lot of confusion. Again, there are headlines that terrify, not clarify. And people are seeing rising prices, rising interest rates, bubble bursting, and all of the concerns around the market crash. What I want to share is the data that shows exactly what's happening and helps you really separate out the noise, because it's the noise and the confusion that's going to put you on the sidelines. And maybe you say, I'm just gonna wait and see how long can this keep going. I just don't see the end yet. I think it really starts with the conversation on mortgage rates. So let's dive into and look at this quote from Doug Duncan at Fannie Mae. And it says, right now we forecast mortgage rates to average 3.3% in 2022, which though slightly higher than 2020 and 2021, by historical standards remains extremely low and supportive of mortgage demand and affordability. So what does that mean? Well, just like most of the other experts are projecting, we're seeing a projection for increasing mortgage rate. We've seen that even over the past few weeks, as mortgage rates have on average ticked up above 3%. So as mortgage rates rise, it will cost more to purchase a home. And that's exactly what I've been talking about with affordability. Mortgage rate, prices, and wages are the 3 layers of affordability. So if the mortgage rates are projected to rise, it will cost more. But the great context here that I love about this quote is the price or the piece about the historical standard. If mortgage rates are ticking up a little bit, it will cost more, but they will remain historically low based on projections, and that will support affordability. So that's great news for buyers. But what you need to know as a buyer is understand buying now before mortgage rates rise will make it cheaper for you. Let's take a look at what the mortgage rate data looks like. This is the data from Freddie Mac and its average mortgage rates going all the way back to 2018. What you can see here is that the mortgage rates were roughly just under 5% in 2018, and they've dropped pretty significantly since then. We hit kind of an all-time low at the very end of last year, early this year, and then they've started to tick up again. And so what people want to know is, where are they headed? Similarly, as we saw in the quote before, you can see Freddie Mac is saying mortgage rates are projected to rise as well, roughly 3.6% by this time next year. And as we average out all the projections that we're looking at from the major players, we see roughly 3.5% mortgage rates next year. So as mortgage rates get higher, it becomes more expensive to purchase a home, and that's what you need to understand as a home buyer. If you're thinking of waiting a year or 2 years, maybe even 3, if you're ready to buy now, buying before the mortgage rates rise, that's the deal. There's a cheesy saying in real estate that goes like this: you don't wait to buy real estate. You buy real estate and wait. Now, I know it sounds cheesy, but it's true. Just ask every homeowner that went through the mortgage foreclosure crisis how much their property was before and how much is it worth now. I bet you it's much higher than the last hike that we had. Now, what we also know is that mortgage rates aren't the only thing on the rise for next year. Home prices are forecast to appreciate as well. So what you're looking at here is the home price forecast for 2022. And as we look at 6 or so major players that I follow, industry experts, they're averaging out to about 5.1% appreciation next year. Now, what does that mean? Well, we've seen and we've talked about over the past year, home prices have appreciated at record-breaking level. 18, 19, almost 20% appreciation. So next year, the forecast is showing continued appreciation, but at a slower or more moderate rate. And you've heard me use this term deceleration, and that's what's going on. And that's what's really important. Home prices are expected to continue rising, but at a slower pace. Definitely not projecting a decline in prices, but a slower rate of appreciation. That means that it's going to get more expensive to purchase a home. And as a buyer, you want to be able to purchase before home prices rise and interest rates rising, because that's a double whammy. But why are they projected to continue to appreciate? That's because inventory is still a big challenge. It's still a major question. As we follow supply and demand, the supply and demand conversation that we have over and over again, supply is low and demand is high. That's going to naturally make prices increase. And so what we see is that the inventory situation, it won't be sold overnight. We'll still have an inventory challenge next year, but likely softening because builders are coming back to the market, building more homes. We anticipate more sellers to feel less pressure coming out of the pandemic and may be interested in selling their home. The shortage of inventory won't get solved overnight even then. Again, now, what does this mean for you as a buyer? Of course, buy before prices and mortgage rates increase to maintain affordability. But what does this mean for sellers? Well, good news is it means that home equity will continue to increase as well, and that's a huge factor. I've talked about record-breaking equity over the past year, as well as equity will continue increasing as home prices rise. So what I want to make sure is that homeowners know this, and that is if you're thinking about making that move 2 or 3 years down the road, maybe even sometime next year, doing that before prices increase will help them leverage that equity. Make that move or that downsize or whatever it is you're going to be doing while you can still lock in the low rate, take advantage of the current home price appreciation. So equity is really still good for homeowners. As we think about mortgage rates rising, prices rising, what does that mean for home sales next year? Well, home sales are forecast to increase this year and perform well again in 2022. What you're looking at here is the home sales forecast from 4 major entities that I follow: Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, NAR, and MBA. And in 2021, it looks like roughly 6.7 million to 6.9 million homes in sales. Still a very strong year. And then next year, potentially even exceeding that. The reason this is so powerful is if you look at last year, we sold 6.5 million homes in 2020, and that was a record-breaking year. We are projected to exceed that, what we did in 2020, again this year, and then next year. This is fantastic news, and this means that a strong spring and selling season, that means more inventory is coming into the market. We anticipate that. The forecast is really going to be strong going forward. Now, I couldn't say it better myself, but the reality of it is 2022 should be another strong year for the housing market. This is a quote from the Mortgage Bankers Association, and it's a great setup for what's ahead based on what the data is saying, what the experts are saying. 2022 really has the potential to be a great year. I've got this slide here that really is representing a home, and you can see a little desk there, and maybe many of us over the last year at some time or another have worked from our home. Certainly during the lockdown, we've all worked from home. Different states, different regulations, but no doubt people across the country have had a new meaning and a new take on home during the pandemic. Many have had to figure out how to work, how to educate their kids, how to do what they need to do from home, how to entertain themselves at home. And I think as we go into the next year with prices increasing, interest rates increasing, it's going to cost more. as a home buyer, you also need to start looking at or thinking of the non-financial benefits of home ownership. I want to talk about that for just a couple of minutes and give you the latest information of what's happening in that area, because I think we're seeing a different trend than what we saw previously in this country, and I do want to highlight that for you, but I want to start here. Don Layden from Harvard University says this: home ownership is regarded as causing an improvement in the quality of life of a typical family. It is the most common method for such a family to build wealth that can be used for retirement or other needs, including helping the next generation. Such wealth creation therefore provides a major social as well as economic benefit. You know, I've been talking a lot over the last year about the economic benefits of increasing prices, equity increasing across the country. Let's talk about non-financial benefits and what that looks like. Over the last year, half across the country, Unison just did a report on the state of the American homeowner, the 2021 state of the American homeowner, and it says this: 64% of American homeowners say living through a pandemic has made their home more important than ever to them. No doubt all of us could probably say on some level that it's been true for me as well. I've worked at home, I've educated my kids at home, I've entertained myself at home. Just the list goes on, and it's become more important. 83% of homeowners say their home has kept them safe during the pandemic. No doubt, home has taken a new meaning for people. 91% of homeowners say they feel secure or stable or successful owning a home. We can say confidently that home ownership and the non-financial benefits of home ownership are growing, and here's why. Think back to 2010. Think about that time in our country. Many people saying, I don't know if it's still, if owning a home is still the American dream. This was because of the foreclosure crisis. We saw a lot of people lose value in their homes and losing their homes in the recession, in the Great Recession, the housing crisis. And I'm not sure that's what people wanted to do. Certainly young people that saw their parents go through that, they might not want to own a home. And I think we can say today, things are happening differently coming out of this crisis of the pandemic. Now, I'm not suggesting we're fully out of it by any stretch of the imagination, but there's a lot of it in the rear view mirror. Home has become much more important. I think this will be the question coming up as we go into the next couple of months and into the holidays. We're gonna encounter people that say, when is the market going to crash, or questioning you if you tell them that you're thinking of buying. And this is how you should respond to this, to the question. My response would be, do you think home is becoming more important or less important to people? Do you think more people want to buy a home today or less people want to buy a home? Inside that Unison report, they say last year, staying home became a necessity, and that caused many homeowners to have a renewed gratitude for a roof over their head. And there is no doubt it's all about the pandemic. That home and that gratitude for a place, that gratitude for safety became something that certainly in my lifetime I've never seen before. It became more important to people across the country. As a matter of fact, inside that study, homeowners said that they feel emotionally attached to their home. Pre-pandemic, that was about 58%. Now it's 70%. A rise in the number of people that say, you know what, I feel more attached to my home after going through the pandemic, and that makes sense. It makes sense for all of us that have been through all of the things that we know about last year and a half. And that there is the bottom line. Here's another quote I want to share with you from Mark Fleming from First American. Buying a home is not just a financial decision. It's also a lifestyle decision. So my hope is that I impart or share with all of the things about the benefits of home ownership, financial and non-financial. And if you're going to make a move or not make a move, make sure you're basing your decisions in the right information, or you could lose out or cost you even more. I love sharing with you all the data that I gather, whether it's my monthly market report or my local monthly report. If you have any questions about this or need help buying or selling a home, reach out to me and I'd be happy to assist you. I'll see you on my next video. Have a great day.